Well, thank you for being here. I'm Suzanne Lynn, and I'm so excited about this show. Okay, maybe I didn't sleep as well as I should have, just anticipating today's show, talking to Crystal Dwyer Hansen and Mark Victor Hansen. I'm going to start with Crystal, international speaker, researcher, consultant, author, entrepreneur. Okay, so check this out. Her fields of science are neuroscience, epigenetics, which I had to practice saying, quantum physics. She's pretty and smart, and I'm so happy for you. Um, Mark Victor is Mark Victor is widely known as the American inspirational and motivational speaker. Oh my gosh, where do you even start with Mark? He's best known as founder and co-creator of the Chicken Soup for the Soul book series with more than 500 million books sold. He's written more than 24 books. And in talking to them, just the little bit that I have before the interview started, they have a heart to change the world and help people reach their potential. So welcome so much, Crystal and Mark. We're so glad that you're here.
Thank you, Suzanne. We're so happy to be here with you.
Delighted.
Well, we're going to start off with the book, Ask, and it is Ask the Bridge from Your Dreams to Destiny. And wow, do we have a lot to cover? I mean, just the very title itself, Ask, where does that come from? What is the essence of the book?
What happens is we've been blessed to travel to 80 different countries, talk to 7 million people, met everybody. And the difference between somebody who's wonderful, educated, personable, and successful at some level, and those who are vastly successful and fulfilling their destiny at the very top is one thing and one only, and that is they have mastered the fine art and science and strategy of asking. And so we said, wow, we've overcome all of our problems, transformed ourselves out of lack into lots and loads and abundance with one thing, asking. Let's write everything we know about asking. It'll be the first book we did together. And then we checked it all out at all the top universities, Harvard and Stanford and Cambridge. And sure enough, it was true. And then we interviewed 26 superstars. And now we're trying to get everyone to learn to be a master asker where they have a little bit of boldness. And if they don't believe they can do it, all they got to believe is that we're going to believe for them that they'll have the power to ask and succeed mightily.
So is there a faith element to this book?
Oh, absolutely. In fact, we say there are 3 channels through which to ask. And each of those channels is equally important. And those are ask yourself, ask others, and ask God. And we've found in all of the interviews we've done and throughout our lives that if we deploy that sort of art and science of asking in those 3 channels, it's amazing. You can literally overcome any challenge, any issue. If you're stuck and you don't like where you are, the first thing you need to do is understand this tool of asking and start asking through those channels. And you will be astounded at how much it will reveal to you in your life and how drastically you could change your life.
So, and thinking about this interview, I was wondering, why don't people ask? Is it they don't think to ask? They don't feel worthy to ask? Or they're afraid of the answer? What do you think about those?
You know what it is? I think we all come into this world as children so beautifully made by our Creator to be master askers, right? We come in and we want to know everything. We're wildly curious. We want to know who, what, when, where, why, how, right? And we want to ask for more and more and more. And then over time, that gets shut down. It gets really kind of crushed out of us, depending on what we've been through in our lives. Parents saying, enough, I've had enough of you, or depending on how we were raised, or going to school, you're be quiet, don't ask unless you're called upon, and jobs and basic life rejection, and people start to lose their confidence in asking. They start to lose 2 things, Suzanne. They lose their curiosity about life. They stop wondering because it almost seems like they're annoying if they ask too much, if they want to find out too much, or they're being a bother. So that starts to get shut down. And the other thing is they stop asking for what they deserve. And it's a sad thing because it's a gift we were all given. And Mark and I said, we need to resurrect this in people.
Absolutely.
This is the greatest gifts we have that was given by our Creator. And when you resurrect that and start asking for what you want and what you deserve, because we all deserve to live our greatest life, it is amazing how learning sort of that art and science of asking changes everything.
What would you say to someone who says, you know what, you don't know how crazy my family is? I mean, I don't even know where to start to ask. Sometimes I ask if I can just go take a ride to get away from them. I mean, when it comes to family dysfunction, what kind of things are you asking in that regard?
Two parts. Number one is we're going to say everybody's got to get a copy of this and then get a buddy or a partner or a spouse or a kid to go over it. And so you get two books and read through every one of the questions. And what it'll do is awaken you up inside out. Like I say all the time, what you impress, you express. Second thing about the dysfunctionality, we discovered there are 7 roadblocks, stop signs, so to speak, to asking. Starting, and by the way, all of us have different ones of them at different times, and some of us have a multiplicity of them, which is what causes dysfunctionality. Yes. And what we're saying is asking brings you back to fully functional, so you ascend rather than descend. And when you ascend, you fulfill your destiny, which is God's obligation for every one of us to create and contribute. But the roadblocks include sense of unworthiness, fear, excusology, pattern paralysis, and the last one that really stifles and stops more than we know is disconnection, because everyone says, you don't mean I'm disconnected. I have a cell phone. I have 4,000 other people that send me nonsense pictures.
That's not what we mean.
I'm glad you see the humor in that, because what's happened is, and I'll just conclude with this one little idea, is that, and hey, look, you can't look at a caterpillar and predict butterfly. And right now, 8 billion of us are in this cocoon, and it's dark in there. But in this cocoon is when we transform, if you are asking positive, uplifting, inspiring questions. And that's what we're trying to do, to have you zoom forward. Like Crystal said, you got to ask who you are, ask others how to get to where you want to go. And then the biggest and most important one, which you're a master of because of where you've worked for your whole life, is you got to learn how to really ask God inside out, because that still quiet voice.
Yes. It's not so quiet when you start asking.
It's really not.
I'm like, okay, I hear you loud and clear.
It's amazing. And really, you receive your answers both ways. I mean, I received answers from God that I thought, this is the best decision. You know, I'm going to do this for sure. And he stopped me in my tracks, and thank God.
Yes.
It would have been the worst thing ever. And
those unanswered prayers. Yes.
Yeah. Or they are answered, but answered not in the way we thought they would, Praise Him.
So one of the ways that we can start making a difference with generations is catching children at a younger age and teaching them to ask and helping them be literate and read these books. And I know that you both are so passionate about helping kids, because the literacy rate is it's mind-boggling. I just can't believe that.
Well, like we were saying to you before the show began, 2 things. One is the amount of kids in Baltimore that can pass a literacy mathematics test is 0. And in California right now, they tested all the kids, and it breaks my heart to say that high school graduates, 75% can't pass the simplest literacy test. And then back to the positive, because we believe in helping our kids. We got in our blended family, 5 kids and then 6 grandkids that we adore. And we were on holiday 2 years ago, and we were just going to start this book. And our little 6-year-old Everett calls up, and he had a brand new Gizmo watch. You and I called it a dictation watch, right? That you're talking.
Right.
And he can only call his parents and his grandparents, Mimi and Grampy, and calls up, and it's his name on the phone. And I go, yes, Everett? And he said, Grampy, are you still writing books? Yes, sir. He said, you know those Chicken Soup for the Soul books? I said, yes, sir. He said, I really like those. I said, I got to touch in my heart. He says, are you alone? Can we talk privately? And I'm going, are you white on the beach? And I said, Everett, where are you? He said, I'm hiding in the closet. He says, why? Because this is an important question. I said, what is it, son? You can ask Grampy or Mimi anything you want for the rest of your life, 24/7. We'll always answer. You know that. He said, can I write that book with you? It just melted our hearts. And we said, of course. So the first story in the book is from our little friend Everett, who wanted to write a book at 6 years old, because what Crystal said is that most of us have asking crushed out of us. Our curiosity is squished, squashed, and I'm going to say squandered, and it's reprehensible. We need to open up kids' curiosity, because when you ask, you illuminate, you get solutions, you get ideation, you wake up with insight in the middle of the night, and with God talking to you in a still small voice. It's shouting sometime, like you said.
Right.
Yes. Oh, I love the way that you said that. And, it just breaks my heart to think that there are children that have asked and been squashed and put in the corner. And now that's just a pattern going forward that they're afraid to, when they may be able to do something. There's always going to be someone that can do it better than you. Always. But you can do it. And God has an exact purpose for you to do it. And we just need to encourage him. I think we lose so much self-confidence. And the thing we also talked about prior to the interview was that just one of your books, you get them into the children's hands, and it doesn't matter if the schools aren't properly. I don't want to say it doesn't matter. You can do something. There's a positive way to make change by putting books in kids' hands. You don't have to worry about if the money's being filtered through the right channels.
Let me just talk to that just ever so quickly. Yesterday, we get called by a college girl senior. She is so inspired with her books. I got to say, this is heart touching. She started a group with 150 girls at her university. Now, she's the head of the whole class, but at this great university, Santa Cruz University. But she said, look, self-help books have changed my life. I didn't even know they existed. All of a sudden, I read your book, and it's sort of, if you forgive the metaphor, it's a lotus, an ever-opening flower. And she said, I really want to help you, and I just want to contribute and be an intern to you. And she has already done some stuff that in 1 or 2 days, it just astounds the two of us. So you're right, a book in the hands, if they'll just open it and read it, it can have them morph, have them transform, have them elevate and escalate. And everyone now in lockdown needs to read positive life-enhancing books.
Right.
How does that feel to go, one book that God blessed you with, the words to say, are now possibly changing generations and families?
It was a dream, a vision, a hope, a prayer. And, we thought if we sell 1 million, that'd be wonderful. And then I interviewed all the 101 best-selling authors, because you asked this question earlier before we began, fiction, nonfiction. I said, don't tell me how to write. I think I know how to do that. But please tell me how you market. Because a great book, like we just wrote a book called You Have a Book in You, and you can go to my website and get it at markvictorhansen.com. But is your 10% done when you finish an excellent, excellent book? But 90% is the marketing, the hustle, the self-promotion, the ideation. And yeah, even in COVID, book sales are up how much, honey? Right.
No, book sales have done really well if you're out there hustling, and you have to know what to do. And so Mark and I, it was interesting because our publisher came to us, our book was to be released April 28th, like right in the middle of it. So they were promoting a lot of books and saying, let's move it to the fall. And we all had this meeting and kind of agreed together that we wanted to forge ahead, even though the bookstores were closed. We all felt like there was a message in this book, Ask, The Bridge from Your Dreams to Your Destiny, that people need to hear right now. Because never has there been a time where it's more important to do this self-reflection. The ask yourself part is self-reflection. And we say there are 3 phases to the asking yourself part. And that is, first of all, phase 1 is, where am I now? Because we really need to stop and take a look. You can't know where you're going unless you know where you are. So where am I now? What has worked in the past? What's not working? What do I really desire? What am I passionate about? What am I purposeful? A lot of people are realizing what I was doing before. I was just sort of moving through outer space, never questioning, is this what I want to do? Is this who I'm meant to be? And so now we can say, we can take the time to say, where am I right now? And then the second phase of that is, where do I want to be? Because God gives us this ability to literally create the architecture of our lives. But if we don't stop to ask those right questions, where do I want to be? And then all the little sub questions that come under that. In my perfect world of success, or in a career, or my perfect world of successful relationships, what would I be doing? Who would I be talking to every day? What does that look like? What does it feel like? What does it sound like? And in that way, you literally start to create this template for your life, because the human imagination is so powerful. It creates the architecture for what we can manifest if we're willing to take that time with ourselves and with God, and the third part of that asking yourself part is, what specific steps do I need to take to get there? Now that I know, now that I've asked the questions, the solutions and the answers are coming to me and I'm defining them, what steps do I need to take to get there? And it's such a magnificent journey. And then taking it out to God and saying, God, what is my greatest purpose? If I pull back the camera lens, it's not just about me. I'm fitting into this whole kingdom that you created. So what is my purpose in the kingdom, right?
Yes.
And it's a bit more exciting and more vital and gives it so much more meaning.
Crystal, you're right. This is such an exciting time. I think sometimes we learn the most when we're on our knees and in the darkest parts, and a lot of people are out of jobs. But man, they're surviving, doing new things and creating things that they would have never done on their own if this COVID had never happened. I'm not trying to say it's a positive thing, but what you're saying really speaks to people getting outside of the shell because they were forced to. It's like leaving a job I wouldn't have left if I hadn't been kicked out. Oh, thank God I was, because good things ahead. You know, we're survivors.
Oh boy, we are. And sometimes, you know, I really believe, Mark always says this, that, you know, the size of the tragedy is equal to the size of the comeback, you know, and I think we all, if we pull together, we have to keep our heart in a good space and our mind in a good space. And that's why Mark and I are concerned, because so many people are getting depressed and disconsolate. And that's why we're saying, get this book today, because it will lift you up. It is the tool. You know, sometimes we all just need a tool, and we need an easy tool. This is an easy tool that everybody can use, because we don't have the answers all the time, but we always have questions. And if we start asking the right questions, it's going to lead us to our next step. It's going to lead us to our next solution. It's going to lead us to the next illumination. It's going to lead us to the next plan that we hadn't thought of before.
Oh, absolutely. I love the way you said that.
So let me add to that. Your two last questions is, did I ever see it affecting it? So we asked giant questions at the end, because we didn't know this was going to come in a lockdown. But the big type questions are, first of all, like when I wrote in 1 Minute Millionaire, I said, there's a million ways to make a million. There's one right, perfect, easy, acceptable way to you. And right now, with like all the airlines are crushed. I mean, you know, on October 1st, American Airlines said permanently 19,000 people bye-bye. The whole country of Australia is shut down. Nobody can fly in or out until January 2nd, which is mind-boggling, because we've traveled 250,000 miles a year for 44 years. So the point I'm making is, you got to say, look, there's 8 billion people alive. An entrepreneur I define as somebody who takes a problem, fixes it for a vast solution. So a lot of us have said, well, I am a flight attendant. I'm a mechanic. I'm a pilot. I love all of them because they've been very good to us, traveling everywhere. But the point is, today, how are you going to positively affect, we write the question that we learned from Peter Diamandis, 1 billion people during this decade, and make yourself very rich? Why not? And so that kind of new question has you pivot, reorient yourself, and you go to bed at night and this question, God, what is your destiny for me? God, what is your destiny for me? God, what is your destiny for me? But you got to be ready in the middle of the night with pen and paper, because you're going to have the idea come up and say to your sweetiekins, hey, sweetiekins, I'm going to wake up and I'm going to write this out in detail. I don't know what the answer is going to be, but
I'm going to write this on your back. I have to remember this, right?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So I want to kind of move a little bit into the authors that I get to speak to around the world. There's a universal feeling that they just aren't selling enough books. And you two, this is in your DNA. This is who you are. How could you speak to the authors that, whether they're self-published, independent, or, you know, with a publisher, right now, it's just been a really difficult time. Marketing is on their backs more than ever. And what advice would you give to them?
Well, I'll do the beginning advice and then and then if they go to my website, markvictorhansen.com, there's a whole video on how you do that, because we need to market brand new. Like Crystal said, our publisher said, look, the bookstores are closed, so you only got Amazon basically, and literally that's selling more books than ever. So, and they start out as the world's biggest bookstore, Jeff Bezos. So, and I'm the only guy who ever melted him down, which is fascinating. So, two issues. Number one, master marketing. Now you got to be doing podcasts, and some days we're doing up to 5. Like we've done 2 in America, 1 in Canada, 1 in Ireland, and then we did one with 10 million people in Vietnam, which is really exhausting. But the point is, all those people are hungry for information, and I'm saying, hey, look, for all of us, we've got to shut off the negativity. No more than 15 minutes of negative a day. Listen to positive shows like yours, something that's going to uplift, or watch my videos and hers online, or read our positive books. So that's that part. But then podcasts are one. The other is in the marketing, it's called a funnel now. You got to create a funnel so you get people into your funnel. You build a big email list, and you say, well, how hard is that? Well, you got guys like Joe Rogan, who just made $100 million by Spotify, and he did it in 4 years. You got Grant Cardone, who's done 2.2 billion. So the market is vast, and the average American is now listening to 7.5 hours of podcasts a week, because they're shutting off the TV and they're going, oh, I can't take this anymore. And I'm glad they are, because we can't. Well, your spirit has to be escalated and elevated.
Yeah.
I mean, that's everything the Apostle Paul wrote. Not you're either indwelling or exdwelling, and you're either evoluting or involuting. So it behooves you to escalate your consciousness and raise your spirit and soul.
So I hear, I'm going to just mirror back. That's a little bit of therapy from my past that I'm just mirroring back to you. Okay, so press releases, there's a place for that. There's a place for traditional marketing. But I'm hearing you both say, listen, relationship marketing is where it's at. When you can fill somebody's need and you're showing value based on your book, there's a hook for everybody, right? With somebody's book, no matter if they've written a book on how to paint with yellow paint. I mean, there's something that people are looking for that you can help them, right?
It's so true. And that hook is so important. You've got to understand, what is your hook? First of all, who is your audience? Who are you speaking to? Because actually Facebook and all the social media makes it easier than ever to define your audience, which is great. Yeah. So now you define it to the people that you want to speak to, right? But you have to get that hook that basically says, here's what is going to be the end all for you when it comes to this thing that I'm offering you, you know, and then you need to make sure that you tie into the problem they're experiencing, whatever it is. And then, you know, give your offer, you have to present your credibility and all of those things. But yeah, the main thing is speak to them like a real person, like we're speaking right now. You know, it's not like you're preaching at them from a stage or something like that. It's like a really conversational kind of thing.
That's kind of changed as technology changed, right? Is that what the difference is? As technology's come along, then the marketing plan and what works.
Definitely.
You get this little thing called Zoom and Skype and StreamYard, and what happens is just we'll take one. Zoom had 671 million people sign up last month. These kind of numbers are unheard of, which means everybody's paying attention, everybody's listening, everyone's watching. But back to what you said about painting a yellow house, it's called a niche. And I wrote a book with Jay Abraham, the world's greatest marketer. I've written 309 books, but Jay and I wrote this book. And what we said, look, there's a niche for everyone to grow rich in. Everyone's got some itch. And if you got the book that hits that itch, they will gladly fork over their money. And there's $4 trillion floating through the economy a day electronically. So there's never been more money. And what happens is you start to read the newspaper and the world shut down. And when I went bankrupt in 1974, I thought that my world was shut down. I was shut off for 6 months, wanted to hang myself. But the point is, once I learned that you have positive input, you get a positive output. It seems so simplistic, but you got to learn to ask yourself at the depth of your being, who am I? You know, who can I talk to that can source and serve me and mentor me? And then, you know, how do I talk to God in an omni-effective way?
Wow. So have a niche, find the itch, and you get rich. Pretty much, right?
I love it.
I think I'm going to create a bumper sticker.
Go, girl. Go.
So we're going to circle back. I want to go back to the book, Ask the Bridge from Your Dreams to Your Destiny. What would you say to someone who's just so broken that they feel like there's no hope? What would you speak to them?
Right. I just want to tell them that truly there is no mechanism that has the ability to reveal what is hidden from you like asking. So get this book and read it carefully. And really, when you read the stories, you know, stories are like metaphors for our own lives. You know, we're all human. And that's why we pick these amazing stories, because they literally become a template for us to follow. That's how our brains work. You know, our brains work in a pattern. We recognize a pattern. That's the metaphor. So read the stories carefully and do the exercises and spend some time with yourself, because I promise you, if you do that, I promise you, your perspective will change so quickly. You will start to get the answers that you've been seeking that have just been, you know, evading you. And it seems like when people get in this state of being, they start sliding downward into their hopelessness and collapsing on it. So we're saying, stop that process right now. Stop that spiral. Get the book and just check out of, you know, the news and everything for a while.
Yes.
And spend time with
until at least November 4th, right?
Oh my gosh, yes. Yes, spend time with this book and talk to God. Ask yourself the questions. Ask the people who are a resource to you that you love and trust. And when things come to you, when you start asking questions of yourself, you'll start to think of things. You'll be like, oh, I should talk to this person. This person, you know, has already done that. this idea that I just got, I should call them up. Well, you need to take action on that. So make sure you have an action guide along with your journaling. You know, like my action guide today is boom. And it's important, but just give yourself that time. It's a little gift. It's a tiny little $16 gift that will change your life. And I promise you, you want to highlight it and go back to it again and again and again, so you can keep moving forward, because life always unfolds, right?
Let me add to what you said. For some reason, my heart says somebody out there feels so broken, like you just said, that they can't even afford that. Just go to a library. Libraries are free. They're all created in America by one of my heroes, Andrew Carnegie, who was the richest guy, and said, hey, what is the best thing I could do? Because I only have a third grade education. My parents were illiterate. I was illiterate, but I learned to read when books cost $300 each. And then he gave us the library system. Well, there's 4,500 libraries, so there's nobody anywhere in America that can't go to a library for free.
Yeah.
And our books are there. So I'm not trying not to sell books. I'm trying to get everybody to have freedom, which is what reading gives.
Right.
Wow. I think that is a fantastic place to end. I hate ending because I've really enjoyed it. I feel like we just kind of got started, but thank you so much. And I imagine that Ask is available. It's probably easier to say where it's not available because it's just everywhere, right?
Everywhere. And obviously the easiest place is to go to Amazon, because you can get it in Kindle, you can get it in audiobook, you can get it in hardbound. It's there in a day. And I was just going to say, you know, one of the podcasts we were just on, he said, if you know someone who's hurt or broken, buy 10 copies and go give them. I mean, if you want to make a difference in someone's life, you can gift them with this simple gift. And then even maybe offer to, like, hey, let's get together and talk about the book.
Yeah.
We've had people come up to us in our books from the past and say, I was ready to take my life until I read your book and I started talking about it with someone. So you can make such an enormous difference.
You know, I've been reading the book, and what really has stood out to me is it feels like common ground. It's a faith message, but it's not in your face. I feel like any of my friends in any of the circles or religions or ethnic group, whatever, that it's kind of like, I feel like it's a way to hold your hand out and say, let's find common ground here. Let's read this together. Whether you're, you know, an evangelical Christian or you're Jewish, how can you not be a better person after you read this book? And to talk about, let's have a girls' network. Let's do a book club with this. Let's have a youth group or, you know, Bible study. It falls into all those abilities, all those groups.
Yeah.
So
thank you, Suzanne.
We'd love everyone to get a copy of the book, Ask, Bridge from Dreams to Destiny, at Amazon probably. You can get it anywhere you want. And then go to askthebookclub.com, and for free, we're going to have a book club that trains you. No one's ever tried to do this before, to become a master at asking so you fulfill your destiny.
Wow, that's wonderful. Thank you both so much. I just appreciate it beyond words. Thank you for your words to the authors of how to help sell more books. And I hope that we can reconnect on, one of your new future books, I'm sure, that are on its way.
That's right. Thank you, Suzanne. We've really enjoyed it.
Thank you.